Well, New York City Mayor Eric Adams said this week that its current migrant crisis will, quote, destroy the city. With an estimated 110,000 migrants arriving in New York City over the past year, Democrats are starting to point blame at an unlikely source. President Joe Biden. Democrats Pat Ryan, Josh Riley, and Laura Gillen have all publicly criticized the president for not taking action on the issue, even saying that this could hurt his re-election chances in 2024. And here to shed light on this Democratic infighting and more is former Virginia Attorney General and Deputy Secretary of Homeland Security in the Trump administration and senior fellow at Center for Renewing America, Ken Cuccinelli. Ken, great to have you back on the show. I first want to get your reaction to what's happening between these New York Democrats and the leader of their party, Joe Biden.
So I think the simple answer is they have crossed their breaking point. Eric Adams literally was talking about this destroying his city, and what the entire influx of New York City is less than 1 month of border crossings. And that is destroying the city, as far as he reports, that they can't handle it. Now, mind you, this is from a mayor who ran as a sanctuary mayor of a sanctuary city, but those chickens are coming home to roost, and he is not alone. As you pointed out in your report, there are other Democrat mayors from other sanctuary cities who, now that they actually have to live with even a small portion of the consequences of their political virtue signaling, are crying uncle. And the uncle they're crying about is Uncle Joe. They are complaining a great deal now, suddenly, about his unwillingness to help them avoid this problem.
Yeah, and that leads me to my next question, Ken. I mean, why do you think President Biden isn't taking charge, as Pat Ryan has said on a number of occasions?
Well, he's got his hands tied here. He is caught between two constituencies, and he long ago sold his administration out to the radical left, erase the border, erase America activists within the Democrat Party. It's worth knowing for your viewers that Democrat voters, not all voters, just Democrat voters, have disapproved of Joe Biden's immigration policies within 2 months of him being sworn in as the president of the United States. Ordinary Democrats in your neighborhood don't agree with these policies. And by the way, we're seeing that in loud tones in New York City, in Chicago, in these cities that have been inundated with the consequences of the policies they've spoken in support of, the open borders policies. And their own citizens are now screaming about what it's doing to their schools, to their neighborhoods, to the crime and threats to them and their children. And it's very serious. And the only way to fix it is to secure the border. And Joe Biden has shown no interest in doing that.
Yeah, I also want to talk about this, Ken. I mean, in a similar vein, a federal judge in Austin on Wednesday ordered Texas to remove those river barriers that the state assembled along a stretch of the U.S.-Mexico border in order to kind of, keep the migrants away. Governor Abbott says that decision just prolongs Biden's unwillingness to handle the border crisis. What do you think about that, and what do you think Texas should be doing?
Well, they're appealing it, and the Fifth Circuit has already stayed the decision. What that means is that the judge's order will not be implemented. Texas will continue to be able to use its water wall to fend off invaders of their state because they're an international border. And they have the constitutional authority under Article 1, Section 10 to repel invaders. And that is what Texas has just recently begun doing, just as of this May. Though many of us have been all but begging them to do it for much longer than that. And now the Department of Justice, when Texas defends its own border and the federal government won't, the federal government sues them for doing that. This judge sided with the federal government. I think you're likely to see the Fifth Circuit say, when the federal government won't stop an invasion at your border and you're a border state, you can defend yourself. That's what the founders said in the Constitution. The states reserve that right to themselves. The Fifth Circuit gave its first indication that that is how they'll ultimately rule, but that's a few months away.
Yeah, and it's not just the southern border, where we are seeing these illegal crossings. It's happening way up north in states like New Hampshire and Maine as well, with migrants crossing over from Canada. Ken, talk to us a little bit more about this.
So this is a much tougher border because as hot and rugged as the southern border is, it is much more open. It's only 2,000 miles long, whereas the northern border is almost double that. Maybe it is double that. And it's heavily wooded. We have road paths in both countries that come right up to the border with no other barrier. And as you note, New Hampshire, for instance, has seen a huge increase percentage-wise in the number of illegal border crossings. And don't forget Florida. Governor DeSantis down there has been fending off water landings. They've had several spikes where state forces have been ordered by Governor DeSantis into action to keep folks from invading Florida from the Caribbean in the same way that Greg Abbott, the governor of Texas, is doing across the Rio Grande. So you are right, this is not exclusively a southern border issue. When you have an administration that lets the world know it's open season on our own country, come in any way you like or can, then guess what? People will try to do that. And the only folks left to stop them are governors who are willing to protect their citizens and our country, like Ron DeSantis, for instance.
Ken, we have about a minute or so left. Quickly, your final thoughts.
Well, I truly wonder how far can this administration go in opening the border and inviting people in and literally opposing domestic political opponents who attempt to fulfill the responsibilities of protecting the citizenry. It is amazing that they're bringing to bear the forces of the Department of Justice to stop states and governors who are trying to protect not only their own people, but our whole country when President Biden refuses to do it. It is truly astonishing. And the only way it's really going to stop is by getting a president who is actually committed to border security, because that's where it all starts.
Okay, we're going to leave it right there. Thank you so much for coming on and for your insights. Really appreciate it.
Always a pleasure. Good to be with you.